When you are young, you might earn less money, but you have a powerful tool in your hands, compound interest. And understanding how it works is key to making your money work better for you.
Compound interest means earning interest not only on your initial principal, but also earning interest on interest that you have made in earlier period. So over a long period of time, the effect of compounding can be substantial. In contrast, if you talk about simple interest only means earning interest on your initial principal.
Here's how simple interest works. If you invest $1,000 at 5% interest for 5 years, you will get $50 interest in the first year, $50 in the second year, and so on. After 5 years, you'll have $250 of interest for a total of $1,250. But with compound interest, you earn interest on your interest. So that same $1,000 invested in an account that compounds at 5% annually will still earn $50 in the first year. But if you keep that money in the account, in the second year, you will earn more interest. This means you earn interest on a sum of money that grows each year. With compound interest, you earn 10.5% more over the same time frame and with the same starting sum of money.
So an example I can give you is of between compound interest and simple interest is CPF savings versus Singapore savings bonds. For example, if you invest in the Singapore savings bonds, you get interest payout to you based on the initial principal, but you may not necessarily be able to earn interest on the interest that you're making. In contrast, when you invest, savings in our CPF account allows us to earn an interest, which then accumulates within the CPF saving account itself, which means in the subsequent period, you earn an interest not only on your initial principal, but also the interest that was earned in the earlier period. Compound interest benefit younger people because they have a longer investment horizon, or rather more time periods to allow their interest to compound. For example, if you have only 5 to 10 years left in terms of time period for your interest to compound, then that may not amount to a substantial figure. But you have say 20 to 30 years, then the effect of compounding interest will become greater as time passes along. Here's a scenario. Assuming a young person at age 25, they started investing $5,000 a year based on an interest rate assumption of 6% per annum. By the end of 40 years, that's when they turn 65, they would have more than $770,000 in terms of accumulated investment. In contrast, if they started just investing 10 years later, based on the same investment a year, $5,000 a year, based on the same interest rate return of 6% per annum, they only generate half the returns, or about 50% less, because they started investing about 10 years later. So that is the effect of compound interest. So person A, he invested $50,000 more because he started investing 10 years earlier. So 10 years times 5,000 equals 50,000. But at the end of the day, at age 65, person A doesn't just have $50,000 more than person B. Person A has almost close to $380,000 more than person B, not only because he invests more, but more importantly because of the effect of compound interest, which means he started investing 10 years earlier.
The power of time is a privilege of the young, but there are some things they should keep in mind.
I think there are two things that young people should avoid doing when it comes to compound interest. The first is don't procrastinate. So a lot of young people may think that because they are young, they shouldn't start investing so early. But what they don't realize is that the time is on their side. So when you start investing when you're young, you have the most amount of time to let your interest compound itself over time. So that is the first thing. Do not procrastinate your investment journey. The second thing I think young people need to do is just to be consistent in their investment journey. So even if they don't start investing a high initial amount, that is okay. They can be consistent. So even if it's as little as $100 to $200 a month, over time, the consistency will help them build up their accumulated savings, and compound interest will help them, exponentially grow their returns.
Compound interest can also be a double-edged sword.
One good example of compound interest working against the consumer would be credit card debt. So if we don't pay our credit card bill in full and on time, what happens is that we incur interest costs that will be charged to us. And in the subsequent period, if we continue to not pay our credit card bill on time, we'll then incur more interest not only on our initial principal, but also on the interest that we have accumulated in the earlier period. So over a short period of time, this bill can actually amount to a large sum quite quickly.
For young graduates who have just started drawing a salary and want to make use of compound interest, here are Timothy's tips.
I think the first thing for fresh graduates to consider when it comes to compound interest is to just make sure it doesn't work against them. So if they have any things like credit card debts or debts that would continuously accumulate interest costs if they don't pay it down in full quickly, then they need to make sure that they pay down this debt first, because then if not, compound interest will work against them over the long term. Subsequently, once they are debt-free, that's where they can start to think about investing their money into a portfolio that allows itself to compound over time, or just simply top up their CPF special account or accumulate saving in a high-interest savings account so that they can enjoy the benefits of compound interest.
One final tip, take a long-term view and look for investments where compound interest can do the work for you.
Sometimes consumers, when they invest, they just look at which investments give them the highest return without taking into consideration whether or not this return that they get, this interest payment that they get, is an amount that can be compounded. So for example, if you invest in, say, a T-bill or a bond, what happens is that the interest may be high, maybe 5 to 6%, but what happens is that when you get the payout, you may not necessarily be able to reinvest the amount. So that means you are only getting and enjoying simple interest. In contrast, if you have an investment or even you put money in your savings account earning 4 to 5%, but because this saving is accumulated in the bank account, that means you can earn interest, you can earn compound interest because you are now earning interest on interest that have been paid out to you.